I walked into the wedding knowing my name wasn't on the seating chart. Melissa, my little sister, was glowing in lace and pearls. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, not since she told me a uniform doesn't make me important. You're still just Grace. So I came in full dress blues, medals pinned, chin high. No one greeted me. Not my mother, who avoided my eyes like I was contagious. Not my aunt, who used to braid my hair. The ceremony moved like a magazine spread. Roses, satin, perfect smiles. When the vows ended, the champagne flowed. Melissa took the mic. "I just want to thank everyone here tonight," she said sweetly, eyes sweeping the crowd. "Especially those who matter." Her gaze locked on me. "And to those who weren't invited, thank you for reminding us that real heroes don't need to dress up in costume to feel important." Laughter burst louder than the music. "She's just an uninvited guest," Melissa added, pointing straight at me. "A gate guard in dress blues." Forks clinked. Whispers curled through the tables. My uncle tried to stop her. Too late. I didn't flinch. I looked down at my water glass, condensation trailing along my fingers. I'd seen worse. But this, family, cut deeper than bullets. Silence is strategy. I set my glass down. My left hand rested on the table, the faint curve of an old tattoo peeking from under my sleeve. The oak doors groaned open. Laughter died midair. A group of men entered, broad-shouldered, eyes scanning the room like they were still on patrol. At their center, Commander Robert Hutcherson, retired Navy SEAL, father of the Groom, a legend. Melissa hurried to greet him. He didn't answer her. His eyes were locked on my hand, on the tattoo. His lips parted, his steps slowed, like he was seeing a ghost. "That mark," he breathed. "That's the blood path, the one from the Western Ridge." The room held its breath. "General Grace, you saved half of us that night." He raised his hand in a salute, straight, firm, absolute respect. One by one, the other SEALs followed. A dozen hardened men, saluting me in the middle of my sister's wedding. Gasps. A fork hit the floor. My mother turned pale. Melissa sank into her chair. I stood, nodded back, hand over heart. "I never needed an invitation," I said quietly. The silence that followed was heavier than any applause. "Before we go further, I want to know, if it were you standing there in front of family who erased you, would you stay silent or speak? Tell me in the comments." The silence in that ballroom stayed with me long after the applause should have started. Not that I expected any. Respect is quieter than that. But silence has history, and mine didn't start here. The last time my whole family had been in the same room was at my father's funeral, early spring, rain for 2 days straight, the kind that seeps into your bones. I got there 15 minutes early. The funeral director didn't recognize me. "Friends of the family to the left," he said, motioning away from the front rows. I almost corrected him. Then I didn't. He wasn't wrong. I sat 3 rows back, close enough to see Melissa clutching Mom's arm like porcelain. Mom's chin was high, eyes dry. She never looked my way. Melissa did. Her face stayed still. Then she turned her head. No one spoke to me. No quiet condolence. No acknowledgement. People who'd known me since I was a kid, who'd cheered when I graduated the academy, looked right through me. When the chaplain said Robert Fairchild is survived by his loving wife Clara and his daughter Melissa, my name was nowhere. That was the first time I felt erased in real time. After the service, I stood by the exit. I didn't want drama, just to pay respect. Mom walked past, gloved hands on her purse. She stopped. "You didn't need to wear the uniform. This was a family event, not a military parade." Then she walked away. That silence lasted 5 years. No birthday calls, no Christmas cards, no text when she moved houses. I found out from a neighbor. During those years, I poured myself into work, led 3 international missions, coordinated disaster relief, taught at the War College. I was on track for brigadier until the email. "Your promotion status is under internal review. A formal complaint has been filed. Effective immediately, your candidacy is suspended pending investigation." No details, no names, just an anonymous tip accusing me of falsifying mission records. I'd never altered a single document. Every medal, every deployment earned in fire and blood. HR gave me nothing. My legal rep said, "Someone's trying to bury you without fingerprints." The review dragged 11 months. I was sidelined. No field access, no teaching clearance, no pay raise. When it was over, they reinstated me. Quietly. No apology. Claims could not be substantiated. But the next cycle, my name wasn't even considered. My file was marked, unofficially, as done. That was the beginning of the unraveling. And in that slow, heavy year, my mind kept going back to the funeral, to Mom's words, to Melissa's blank face. I remembered a hallway conversation years earlier. Melissa on the phone, laughing. She thinks they actually respect her. All those men? Please, she's just convenient. One day someone's going to show the truth about her shiny badges. I'd brushed it off then, too tired to care. But now, with my career almost destroyed by a ghost complaint, I couldn't shake the question. What if they'd helped write it? That thought sat in my chest like shrapnel. I kept replaying missions in my head, the ones no one outside the teams would ever know about. The one that haunted me most was the Western Ridge, maps that lied, terrain that swallowed men whole. I wasn't part of the SEAL team that week, just Overwatch. But when their radio feed went dead at Oro 200 and Robert Hutcherson's voice broke through, contact, North Slope, ambush, 3 down, requesting air. Anyone, please. I knew no backup would reach them in time. Orders were to wait. I didn't. I took a recon team 2 clicks south of their last position. No GPS, no beacon, no rescue if it went wrong. The firefight was still echoing when we crawled in under brush. 4 SEALs pinned behind a collapsed ridge. 1 unconscious, bleeding out. Robert low on ammo. A sniper's round clipped a branch inches from my face. I hit dirt. The ringing in my head was cold and steady. They didn't know the terrain. They'd be dead in minutes. I cut a line across my palm, let blood fall onto a flat rock, drew a crude diagram in the mud. Arrows, elevations, a narrow exit between 2 outcrops to a hidden drop zone. Robert blinked. This is blood. I know, just follow it. Smoke east for distraction, retreat west. It worked. I stayed behind with 1 man, covering their exit until we were last out. Sean Hutcherson, the groom, flatlined twice on the evac chopper. Lived by morning. I didn't give my name. No tags. Just a small black tattoo over my thumb. No honor needed. Only purpose. That mission didn't exist on record, and I'd been fine with that until I saw Melissa's name on the wedding announcement next to Sean's. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a rewriting of the past where I had no place, no name, no voice, and I decided I needed to see just how far they'd gone to erase me. I bought the ticket, packed a press suit, told myself I'd sit quietly, be a ghost. But ghosts see everything. And 2 weeks later, I was standing in that ballroom when the oak doors opened, and my silence, finally, had company. The night I got back to my hotel after the reception rehearsal, I couldn't sleep. The image of those oak doors swinging open, Robert Hutcherson's salute, those would stick. But so would Melissa's smirk, the crooked place card, the looping script that misspelled my name like it was an afterthought. 2 weeks earlier, the envelope had arrived on my kitchen counter. No return address. Cream cardstock, silver trim, too elegant for anything but a wedding. When I opened it, there was no Grace, no Colonel Fairchild, no daughter, no sister. Just 1 printed line where my name should have been. You still have a chance. It wasn't an invitation. It was a dare. I stared at the names, Melissa Fairchild and Sean Hutcherson, and felt something cold move through me. Sean, the man I dragged through shale and blood on the Western Ridge, the man who never said thank you. For an hour, I sat at my counter with the card between my fingers, deciding whether to throw it away or burn it. In the end, I did neither. I slid it back into the envelope and set it on my desk like an exhibit waiting for court. That night, I walked through the park across from my apartment. The last spring blossoms were falling, soft white confetti for no one. I thought of my mother, her turned face at my father's funeral. Of Melissa, always finding the center of the frame. I told myself I'd go, not to be part of it, but to see it, to measure the distance between who I am and who they pretend I've never been. I flew economy, seat 22C, wedged between a coughing teenager and a man reading stock reports. No uniform, no insignia, just a pressed navy suit and the resolve of someone used to being erased. 2 nights before the wedding, I checked into a modest inn on the edge of the village. I didn't RSVP, didn't call anyone. The chapel was easy to find. I walked past it once in the dark, just to know where the shadows fell. The next morning, I went to my mother's house. The garden was manicured to surgical precision. Hydrangeas in white and pale pink, not a petal out of place. The kind of perfection that leaves no room for fingerprints. She opened the door in a powder blue dress, pearls, makeup uncreased. "You're early, the guest room is ready," she said. No hug, no welcome home, just logistics. Inside, the air smelled like lavender and lemon polish. Every surface gleamed. The hallway was lined with framed photos. Melissa at law school graduation, Melissa in Paris, Melissa with Sean. I wasn't in any of them. At dinner, she cut her salmon and spoke in that careful tone she used at country club luncheons. "I hope you'll be discreet tomorrow," she said without looking up. "Define discreet," I asked. Her knife paused. "Don't wear the uniform, it makes people nervous." "People? You know what I mean? This is Melissa's day. Don't make it about you." I set my fork down. Didn't answer. The next morning, Melissa was in the living room surrounded by bridesmaids and camera flashes. She spotted me. "There you are," she said brightly. "Come stand here. No, to my left. We're doing the 3 women of the Fairchild House photo." The photographer's shutter rattled. Melissa adjusted my sleeve like I was a mannequin. "This is perfect. Shows we're still a family despite everything." I didn't ask what everything meant. That afternoon, I checked the seating chart outside the chapel. My name was 3 rows from the bottom, misspelled, grace-furled, uncorrected. My table was near the restrooms, beside a speaker that hissed with feedback. The place card was crooked. During the pre-wedding dinner, the lights dimmed for a video montage. Piano music, baby photos, family vacations, Melissa's life on screen. A single shot of me in uniform appeared. Dirt on my boots, steel in my jaw, but no context, no name. The room clapped politely. No one turned to look at me. To them, that photo was decoration, borrowed gravitas. By the time the applause rose for the final meadow shot of Melissa and Sean, I knew exactly what I was dealing with. This wasn't a wedding, it was a showroom. Everything in its place, except the truth. The next morning, I woke before dawn. The air felt wrong, heavy. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at a faded photo on the nightstand. Dad holding my hand at West Point graduation. His smile was quiet, but proud. The thought hit hard. Look closer. I opened my tablet, logged into the encrypted military portal, and pulled up my internal review file. I hadn't looked at it in over a year. Scrolling past the summaries, I found the complaint. Concerns regarding fabricated mission accounts. Attached, an anonymous email to the Department of Defense Ethics Channel. She never led that mission. She was air support at most. She inserted herself into the story. No witnesses, no commendations, smoke and mirrors for career advancement. It was precise, surgical, not angry, professional, written by someone who knew exactly how to cast doubt without leaving fingerprints. I ran the email through a linguistic forensics module, authorship attribution software we'd used on Intel cases. Then I pulled old writing samples, Melissa's scholarship essays, law blog drafts, holiday newsletters. 3 minutes later, the result appeared. Linguistic match, 96.4% confidence. Melissa. I stared at the number until the edges of the screen blurred. My sister hadn't just distanced herself from me. She'd tried to dismantle me. Memories came fast. Her cutting jokes at family dinners, her interruptions at Dad's memorial, the way she'd say we all serve in our own way whenever I came home in uniform. I'd thought it was petty. Now I saw the blueprint. This wasn't impulsive. It was engineered. She'd waited until Dad was gone, until no one would question her, until I was isolated enough for her story to stick. I backed up the analysis to 2 secure clouds, printed a hard copy, slipped it into a folder. I could have stormed into her dressing room right then, but I didn't want rage. I wanted precision. Truth, when delivered right, doesn't shout. It dismantles quietly. There was a wedding today. Everyone knew their lines. Everyone but me. And when it was my turn, no one would forget them. The reception was winding down, music softer, chairs scraping back, clusters of guests saying their goodbyes. I stood near the back hallway, folder in hand. My pulse was steady, but my mind wasn't. Melissa stepped out from the bridal suite, still radiant in white, still glowing from the praise of strangers. Then she saw me. Her smile thinned into something flat. "Grace," she sighed, "we need to talk." "No," I said, "we will talk now." She glanced over her shoulder, then gestured down a narrow hallway. We stopped in a small utility room behind the floral staging area. The air smelled of roses and wilted greenery. "What do you want?" she asked. I held up the folder. "I know you wrote it, the email that cost me my rank. Linguistic match is 96%. It's you." Melissa didn't blink, didn't gasp. She just exhaled like she'd been waiting for this moment. "I had to," she said. "You had to?" Her voice stayed calm. "Everyone always loved you. Medals, honors, the quiet soldier who saves lives but never brags. You made it impossible for the rest of us to be enough." "I never asked for that," I said. "You never apologized for it either." she shot back. Even when you weren't here, your absence took up more space than our presence. That's not a reason to lie. I didn't lie. I reminded them of what they didn't see. No photos, no records, just a story and a tattoo. I thought if they questioned it, you'd finally step down, let someone else matter. I felt the air thin. I mattered to Dad. That's why Dad is gone, she cut in. And for once, I wanted a spotlight that wasn't filtered through your shadow. The weight in her words was heavier than any bullet. She'd studied my silence, counted on my loyalty, and turned both into weapons. You knew I'd never defend myself, I whispered. She didn't deny it. The door creaked behind us. Mom stood there, arms crossed, her evening shawl draped like a curtain of judgment, lipstick still perfect. I told you not to make things difficult, she said. I didn't make this difficult, I replied. I just showed up. And you always do. That's the problem. Her tone was low, rehearsed. Families don't need spotlights, Grace. They need harmony. And you are not harmony. You're saying I broke the family? I'm saying you make things too clear. People don't like clarity. They like comfort. And there it was, the truth that had been hanging unspoken for decades. They didn't resent my failures. They resented that I hadn't failed enough to be forgiven. I looked at both of them. Mom, elegant and cold. Melissa, glittering and sharp. This wasn't family. This was a showroom. And I'd been the unsellable product. I'm leaving, I said. No one asked you to come, Melissa whispered. But I caught it, that flicker of fear. She thought I'd burn it all down. She didn't know I'd already won. I'd backed up the analysis, forwarded it to my mentor in the Judge Advocate General's Corps. My name was already working its way back through sealed doors. The truth didn't need fireworks, just a fuse. I turned toward the door. My footsteps echoed in the hallway. No one called after me. No one asked me to stay. Out in the main room, the lights had dimmed. Guests were lingering. I could feel eyes on me, some curious, some avoiding mine entirely. Near the entrance, I caught movement. The Hutcherson men, still in formation around Robert. They hadn't left. And Robert, he was looking at me. Not just looking, watching. I didn't know why until I saw the phone in a guest's hand, the red recording light on. They'd been filming. Robert stepped forward, slow but deliberate. His voice carried just enough. General Grace Fairchild, you saved half of us that night. And then again the salute, firm, absolute. The other SEALs followed, one by one. A sharp intake of breath moved through the crowd. Melissa's wineglass slipped from her hand and shattered on the tile. My mother froze, pale as porcelain. Every instinct told me to hold my ground, but another voice whispered, "This is too soon." Too soon for the evidence to surface. Too soon for the quiet fuse to burn. I felt the pull, to step forward, to speak, to turn this moment into the reckoning it deserved. But strategy isn't about what feels good. It's about what works. So I nodded once, hand over my heart, and said only, I never needed an invitation. The silence that followed wasn't just shock, it was calculation. Somewhere behind me, I heard a voice say, "Send me that video." The fuse had been lit. By morning, the clip was everywhere. No captions, no commentary, just Robert Hutcherson's voice breaking on my name, and the moment he saluted. One by one, the others followed. 12 SEALs in pressed suits saluting me in the middle of a wedding. The first repost came from a military forum, then a veterans network. By noon, national news. Questions flooded. Who was the woman in the dress blues? Why did an admiral salute her? What was the blood path from the Western Ridge? An independent journalist picked it up. She cross-referenced dates, casualty lists, and the gaps in the mission record. She tracked down retired SEALs willing to talk. The story came together without me saying a word. The ambush, the impossible escape, the woman who cut her palm and used her own blood to map a route to safety. Within 48 hours, the headline was everywhere. The silent commander. They didn't need my confirmation. The testimonies, the details, they spoke for themselves. Sean said nothing. Not publicly, not privately, but Robert did. His statement was short. General Grace Fairchild is the reason I and most of my men returned that night. Her leadership and sacrifice should have been acknowledged long ago. That salute was overdue. 3 days later, the Department of Defense reopened my case. The anonymous email was re-examined. Digital linguists confirmed the match to Melissa's writing. The stain on my record was erased. Clearance reinstated. I didn't ask for reinstatement. I accepted it. Not for them, for the record. Online, I became a symbol. Messages poured in, cadets asking for advice, veterans sharing their own erasure stories. Families wrote, "We never knew who saved our son. Now we do." The ripple wasn't just national, it was personal. First came the sponsor withdrawal from the wedding's media coverage, polished PR language citing brand concerns. Translation, no one wanted to be linked to a family that tried to erase a national hero. Then extended family broke their silence. Aunt Joan wrote, "I didn't know. If I had, I wouldn't have stayed quiet." My cousin posted publicly, "We grew up hearing Melissa's side. Now the truth is out, and I stand with Grace." RSVPs became retractions. Wedding blogs deleted posts. The perfect Fairchild-Hutcherson union was now a whisper of embarrassment. That's when the letter arrived from Sean, handwritten. "Grace, I owe you everything and never had the courage to say it. What I allowed was cowardice, not malice. I saw you bleeding for us that night. I watched you draw hope on rocks with your own blood. And yet, when I returned, I let the silence grow. I never deserved to marry anyone with your name buried under my guilt. I've called off the wedding, stepped back from service, asked my father not to defend me. I'm sorry. I know it changes nothing, but at least once I chose honesty." I placed the letter in the same folder as the DoD's formal apology, not as revenge, just record. 2 days later, an email from my mother, no subject line. "Grace, things are out of control. You've always been direct, but this is hurting people who loved you. Your sister is devastated. The family name is under attack. If you could make a public statement, neutral to calm things, it would mean everything. Protect the family. Please." No apology, no ownership, just another request to disappear. I didn't reply. I printed it, filed it next to the others. The truth doesn't owe comfort. While the internet argued over the story, I started something new. I called it the Blood Mark Protocol, named for the mark I'd made on the ridge. Not as a symbol of pain, but of direction. It became a network for veterans erased by their own families. Not for glory, for survival. We gathered stories. A Marine whose sister claimed his Silver Star was fabricated. A Navy linguist whose father told guests she only did translations, not real missions. An Army medic whose wedding invitation labeled her former military aide while her brother was civilian recruiter and hero. It wasn't about medals. It was about being invisible in the very rooms we'd fought to protect. Then came the call from the Pentagon. They wanted me to testify, not in a closed-door session, but at a defense policy hearing on veteran reintegration and family trauma. They gave me 5 minutes. I took 7. "We have policies for battlefield injuries," I told the room of generals, senators, analysts, "for re-entry, for mental health. But what about betrayal by blood? What protocol exists for soldiers who come home and have to pretend they weren't there because their families find their strength inconvenient? We honor silence too much. Silence can protect, but it can also erase." The room didn't clap. It didn't need to. They heard it. As I stepped down, a young officer in full dress uniform rose from his seat at the back. He stood at attention and saluted. Not rushed, not performative, deliberate. I nodded once. Not protocol, personal. When I got home that night, there was no champagne, no camera crew, just the quiet weight of having said what needed to be said. But there was one more conversation I needed to have. I used the key my mother had never thought to take back, the one under the cracked flower pot. The house smelled like lemon polish and roses. She was in the sunroom, pearls, lipstick, teacup poised. I set 2 things on the coffee table, her email asking me to stay neutral and a newly signed mission directive from the Department of Defense, stamped, "Right to be seen." "This isn't a performance," I told her. "It's clarity." She tilted her head. "I always believed you'd come back. Deep down, you've always wanted belonging." I smiled. I didn't come back for belonging. I came back to reclaim truth. Her lips parted. "Do you want me to apologize? Will that give you peace?" "Peace isn't something you give," I said. "It's something I claimed the moment I stopped asking permission to exist." "Do you forgive me?" she asked. "No," I said, "but I don't need to. What I need is for you to stay silent when silence is the only decent thing left to do." She didn't answer. I gathered the documents. "You raised a daughter who saves people," I said at the door. "Just not the way you thought." I left her there in the perfect house that echoed with denial. Outside, the air didn't feel lighter. Not yet, but it felt real, and real was enough for now. The next morning, I woke to a text from my legal rep. "It's done. The board voted unanimous. Your record is clean. Your name is back. I stared at the screen. I'd gotten my name back. Now the question was, what was I going to do with it? It's been a year. The air in Vermont feels cleaner. Maybe it's just me breathing differently now. The cottage sits near a tree line, far enough from town that I can hear my own thoughts, close enough for a neighbor to drop by with pie and gossip. No one calls me Commander anymore. At the market, people nod and say ma'am, not because they know my record, because of how I carry myself. I don't correct them. There's a rhythm to my days. I wake early, tend the herb garden out back, make coffee, read the local paper. Small town headlines, farmer co-ops, bake sales. It's enough. Once a week, I teach a survival course for younger veterans. We don't talk about medals or missions. We talk about the present, how to build a fire without kindling, how to read the sky before rain. Some still walk like they're carrying 1,000 pounds on their backs. I don't tell them to let it go. I just show them how to carry it differently. They call me Miss Fairchild, or just G. Some notice the tattoo on my hand faded now. Once, a boy named Eli asked what it meant. I told him, it means I survived being erased. He didn't ask again. At night, I sit on the porch with a blanket and a journal. I don't write about the past. I don't need to. The silence here isn't lonely. It's mine. The blood mark protocol is still growing, but not in ways that make headlines. We've opened a center in Colorado Springs, staffed with counselors, legal advisors, translators for those whose families weaponized culture and silence. Our slogan is simple. You shouldn't have to disappear to survive your homecoming. Every week I hear stories like mine. A Marine whose mother told wedding guests he never saw combat. An Army nurse whose father threw away her medals. A Coast Guard officer whose sister said his rescues were just training exercises. We don't fix everything. We don't promise healing. But we tell the truth, and we tell it without asking permission. I still get letters. Veterans, spouses, strangers who read the hearing transcript. I keep them stacked in a drawer beside my old compass and matches. Not as trophies, as reminders. Telling the truth once is enough. That drawer also holds an envelope I never opened, from Melissa. The handwriting is hers, careful, a little rushed, just my name. Grace, no return address. I kept it for months, telling myself I might open it. I never did. Yesterday, rain fell steady from before dawn. Not the loud kind, the kind that sinks into the soil and stays a while. I lit the fire in the old stone hearth, took the envelope from the drawer and fed it to the flames. The paper curled inward, blackened, vanished. No words escaped. If there was regret inside, it wasn't mine to carry. I stood there a long time, not moving. Then I whispered, not with bitterness, but with clarity, I'm not what they tried to erase. Outside, the rain kept falling. The world felt still, not silent in a haunted way, silent in a clean way, like something heavy had finally been set down. This life now isn't about winning. It's not about proving them wrong or making them say my name with pride. It's about not shrinking to fit their comfort. Some days, I still pass the bakery we used to go to on Sundays, or the library where I checked out every book on Navy history. I think of Dad telling me, you don't have to be loud to lead, and maybe that was the part they hated most, that I led without asking. The silence I carry now isn't their razor. It's my clarity. It says, you cannot rewrite me anymore. Last week, I got a message from a woman in Georgia, a veteran, honorably discharged, erased from every photo in her family's house. She asked if anyone else had been told to tone it down at their own welcome home dinner. I wrote back with my real name. She replied in disbelief, you're the silent commander. I told her I was done being silent. That's what the blood mark protocol was always meant to be. Not a symbol of pain, but a direction out of it. A way to guide people who survived combat, only to come home to another kind of battlefield, shame and silence. We can't always make families see us, but we can see each other. And we can keep walking, even when no one's clapping. Wherever you are, if you've been erased, doubted, or told to make yourself smaller so someone else can stand taller, this is for you. You don't need their permission to exist. You don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their rewrite to make your story whole. Sometimes the miracle doesn't knock. It waits quietly until you're ready to open your own heart and say, I don't need to be proven. I don't need to be forgiven. I just need to be free. So I'll ask you, are you somewhere quiet right now? Coffee in hand, or maybe it's late at night and stories like this keep you company? Tell me. I read every word you send back. And if my story touched something in you, stay a while. Be part of a place that still believes in kindness, in healing, in second chances. Because the truth, once it's spoken, doesn't need to be shouted every day. It just needs to stand. And so do you.